Okay, so how did I find out that there were rats scurrying around the room? Because I want to tell my parents that how I found it out. Well, I found it out because one of them brushed past my foot, and then I've put yuck with an exclamation mark. Now, why have I put an exclamation mark after yuck? Yes, because I probably shouted it, didn't I? When I found it brushing against my foot, I probably shouted yuck, or I probably screamed. So the exclamation mark is showing shouting in my diary entry. Okay, now, what else might I have noticed? Because I've talked about what I saw. What might I have smelt? And what might I have heard? Well, I know that the soldiers were in a lot of pain, so they were probably screaming, weren't they? And I also know that there wasn't much fresh air. It was pretty poor air, wasn't it? Full of disease. So what could I write for this? Well, I have written the stench. Oh, the stench is a brilliant word for smell. The stench of the disease-ridden stale air. Oh, that's great, isn't it? The disease-ridden stale air, because it wasn't fresh at all, was it? And it's disease-ridden, it's full of disease. And that I've used to describe the air using an expanded noun phrase because I've got my determinant the, I've got my two adjectives, disease-ridden and stale, then I've got my noun, which is air. And you can really imagine that in your head, can't you? The disease-ridden stale air. And it was like nothing I have ever smelt before. And the soldiers were screaming in pain. So there we go. The soldiers were screaming. Now, what have I included here? Well, I've included a past progressive sentence because I've got my subject, the soldiers, and I've put were screaming. So I've used the past tense of to be because we've got soldiers, so we're talking about more than one person. And then I've got my verb with the suffix ing on the end, screaming. Or you could say the soldiers were shouting. Or the soldiers were yelling in pain. Okay, so you can use lots of different verbs to describe what the soldiers were doing. Now, how do you think I felt for them? They're on the floor, they're screaming in pain, and the air is disease-ridden and stale. What do I think of the place? Well, I want to use an exclamation sentence to describe how I feel about this place. So, here we go. What an awful place to stay. I have started with the word what, and after the word what, I remembered that I needed to use a noun phrase. So I've got what an awful place. So awful is my adjective and place is my noun. What a dreadful place to stay. What a horrific place to stay. How sorry I feel for the soldiers that have to stay in this awful place. Okay, so lots of different exclamation sentences that I could have used there, but I went for what an awful place to stay. I've highlighted in blue because it's an exclamation sentence. Now, I don't think my family back home can imagine just what it's like. So I'm going to ask them a question that maybe they could reply when they reply to my letter so they could answer my question. I'm going to ask them, can you imagine having to recover in these conditions? Okay. Can you imagine? Because they probably can't imagine because they haven't seen it like I have. So there I have my question. And I've started with my question starter, can, and then I've got my question mark at the end. So I know I've got all parts of my question. Now, I have found this when I've arrived at the hospital. Well, who is running the hospital? And how is this going to make me feel? Well, it makes me feel very sad, but am I going to want my nurses to know that I'm sad? No, I'm probably not. And I'm probably going to want to find the person in charge. So I made sure my nurses did not see me upset though, and immediately went to find the doctor in charge. Okay, so I have used and here, which remember is one of our coordinating conjunctions. We looked at that when we looked at the bubble story. And then I've got immediately, which is an adverb of time. You could say straight away or within seconds. Okay, there's lots of different adverbs of time that you could use to describe when I went to find the doctor in charge. Okay, so the person running the place. Now, how do you think he reacted to me? Because I came to ask if he wanted any help. Well, no, he didn't want any help, did he? So I've written, when I asked him if he wanted our help. Now, why is it our help and not my help? Yes, it's because there's more than one nurse. It's we, isn't it? There is a group and I am one of them. So when I asked him if he wanted our help, Oh, what do you spot at the beginning of my sentence? Oh, yes, I have used a subordinating conjunction. The subordinating conjunction when, and my subordinate clause is at the beginning of my sentence. When I asked him if he wanted our help, he seemed a little annoyed and refused. So I've put it at the beginning, but I could have also put it at the end. He seemed a little annoyed and refused when I asked him if he wanted our help. So there we go. I have written my first paragraph. Now, I've included lots of expanded noun phrases, lots of past progressive sentences, lots of exclamation sentences, lots of adverbs of time. I've included a question, all in this one tiny paragraph. Okay, so now it is your turn. I would like you to use your plan and write your paragraph 1 for your letter. Okay, pause the video now and have. Okay, year 2, have you all written your first paragraph of your letter? Fantastic, well done. So now, as I said, we are going to try and improve our paragraph. Now, I showed you how to do this last lesson, so I'd like you to have a go on your own. I'm going to tell you each thing that I want you to look for. So these are the things that we're going to be looking for. We are going to be looking for capital letters, punctuation, how we have formed the different elements, so how we've formed the past progressive tense, how we've formed expanded noun phrases, how we've formed exclamation sentences, and so on. And then any other improvements. Okay, so we are going to start with capital letters. Now remember, you need a capital letter for proper nouns. Now a proper noun is a day of the week, a month, or you could have a name or a place. Okay, so you need to check that you've got capital letters for all of your proper nouns. And then you need to check that you've got capital letters for the beginning of all of your sentences. That includes questions and exclamation sentences. And then you need to check that you have capital letters for the pronoun I, because remember, I am important. So pause the video now and have a check for your capital letters. Okay, year 2, are all your capital letters sorted? Fantastic, well done. So now we're going to look for punctuation. Now remember, when I was checking my work yesterday, I'd forgotten an exclamation mark and a question mark. Now, I would like you to check through your work for punctuation. So have you included a question mark at the end of each question? Have you included an exclamation mark at the end of each exclamation sentence? And have you included a full stop at the end of each statement? Pause the video now and check your work. Okay, fantastic, year 2. So now you should have corrected all of your capital letters and all of your punctuation. So now it's time to check all your past progressive tense, all your expanded noun phrases, and all of your exclamation sentences and questions. So let's just recap. Past progressive, you need the subject, like the rats, then the past tense of to be, so were, the rats were, and then your verb with ing on the end, so the rats were scurrying. With expanded noun phrases, you know what parts there are in an expanded noun phrase, but just to remind you, you have the determiner, then you have the 2 adjectives with the comma in the middle, and then your noun. Your exclamation sentences, you need how or what, and then you need to check what's after it. Remember, after how, you have an adjective, and after what, you have a noun phrase, and you need your exclamation mark at the end. And then for questions, always start with a question word and a question mark at the end. So pause the video now and check that you have formed all of these different elements correctly. Okay, year 2. So we are on to our last thing that we need to edit. So now we need to look for any more improvements. So could you look at your sentence and think, could there be an adverb of time in there? Or could there be an adverb of place? Or could I add an expanded noun phrase there? Okay, so you need to have a look through your sentences like we did in the starter activity and see how you can improve them even further. Or could you change a noun to a personal pronoun to avoid repeating? Okay, so pause the video now and have a go at improving your work. Okay, year 2. So I'm very excited to see your letters. I'm sure they are brilliant so far. And as I said, tomorrow we will do paragraph 2 and the conclusion together. Okay, so we will finish our letters tomorrow and I'm looking forward to seeing them when they are completed. Okay, so have a lovely rest of your day, year 2, and I'll see you in our next English lesson. Bye.